In the last episode of this series, we looked at making an adjustment to the torso that involved two simultaneous movements. I showed a clip from an old lesson of mine where I was attempting to rotate my pelvis back and up at the same time as rotating my ribcage forward and up. It was clear in the video that I moved the top of my ribcage along with my shoulders and my head backwards and not forwards as I had intended. I asked, how can we make sure that we're actually doing what we intend? We give ourselves orders, but how do we know that we have followed them? This is an important problem because you will often not feel that you're making the wrong movement. I certainly did not feel that I was moving back with the upper sternum here. When you have strong habits, you can and will frequently move back towards your habitual posture without feeling that you are doing so. Many habitual movements are performed so frequently that we think of them as natural, as a necessary part of moving, and so we won't even register that we are doing them. You won't feel these habitual movements, but you can see them. This is why it's essential to get objective visual feedback when you're experimenting with improving your posture. Part of the reason so many other interventions for your posture don't work is because they aren't designed around giving you objective visual feedback. Often, new students will tell me they really did not like what they saw in the video of their first lesson. People usually don't realize just how bad their posture is, because they've never actually looked at themselves from the side. But what's more concerning is when you see yourself doing the opposite of what you think you're doing. For instance, a new student, when they're asked to move their lower sternum back, will often move it forward. And when I tell them this has occurred, they don't fully believe me. They're trying to move their lower sternum back, and they think they are. It's only when they watch the video that they can see for themselves that they're clearly not doing what they intended to do. We assume we are in control of how we use our body. We assume that if we want to move in a certain way, that we can. But these assumptions are destroyed when we record ourselves and check to see if we are really doing what we intended. There is a disconnect between what we think we're doing and what we're doing. And you cannot confront this disconnection between your intention and your action until you know that it's there, until you see yourself contradicting your own intention. And the way to see that is with objective visual feedback. The basic methods for getting visual feedback are using a mirror and using video recording. While a mirror is quicker, a video recording is best because you can watch the video back multiple times to analyze what's happening. You can even slow down your video if you need to. We've looked at a number of adjustments during this series. We've looked at the procedure for using yardsticks against the wall. Maybe you tried out some of these adjustments. Did you have any success? If you haven't recorded yourself, you realistically don't know. You may think you're rotating your pelvis back and up, but you may very well be doing the opposite. The easiest way that I've found for recording myself is using the webcam on my computer. If you perform your adjustments with your side facing the camera, you will be able to see what's happening to your ribcage and pelvis. If you're having trouble understanding what you're seeing, take still images out from the video. If you have counted 1, 2, 3 aloud, you can compare 1 and 3. Draw some lines on the images to help you see what's happening. A simple way to do this is to draw a line connecting the upper and lower sternum. What does that line look like? You'll see that in an image of me, my sternum is not visible because my arms are forward, but this is quite uncommon. Most people will see their arms back in relation to their sternum, and the angle of the sternum will be clear. You can then draw a line going up from your instep. Where is that line in relation to the sternum? If you don't have video or still images to work with, try putting the short side of a book against your sternum. The angle of your sternum should be easily seen. Can you straighten the book by lengthening your torso? What directions can you use to accomplish that? Getting visual feedback is at the core of what makes the initial Alexander technique effective. In my opinion, it's quite unlikely that someone could make progress with their posture without ever using visual feedback. F.M. Alexander and Delsarte were both known for using mirrors extensively, and that visual feedback was crucial to their ability to understand human gesture. we're in an even luckier position. We can take video of ourselves fairly easily. People often ask me, what do I need to do to fix my posture? And while that's a complicated question, I think the most basic answer is that you need to begin to get visual feedback of what you're doing and what your posture is currently like. You can't fix problems that you can't understand, and you won't understand your postural problems until you see them and analyze them. So if you're one of those people out there who really wants to improve their posture, and you're not getting any visual feedback to help you, you're missing out on something that could dramatically help you. We are nearing the end of this series about the torso, so I have a question for anyone who has watched through these videos. Do you have a clear or somewhat clear conception of what is desirable for your torso? Can you articulate it? Because your conception of what you want for your torso is quite important. For instance, some people think puffing up their chest is good for their torso and their posture, but a look from the side reveals that this is typically done by moving the ribcage back and down. This bends the back and shortens the torso. But if you think this is good, you will do it, and your torso will be bent. What you think you should be doing has a huge effect on what you end up doing. So whether or not you can currently make the movements needed to improve your torso, do you understand what kinds of movements would lengthen your torso and bring the ribcage and pelvis into a better orientation? If you're feeling particularly brave, leave a comment below, giving a description of what you understand to be desirable for the torso. And then join me next episode, and I will try to tie together what we've learned so far in this series, so that we can have a better conception of what we want for our torso.